deal. I'll come to your place with my full shut. I will teach you everything I know, and I will help you on any project you want. You give me a penny today, 2 pennies tomorrow, 4 pennies the next day, and I'll work for you for a month or as long as you want me. But at least a month guaranteed. Okay? And he just multiplied. The next day, give me 8 pennies. Okay? And I'll work for a month for you with no problem whatsoever. And I'll leave my shop behind.
Yeah.
Will you sweep my floors?
Yep, I'll do anything you want.
So we were saying 1,000 layers is that less desirable. It's not going to give you the pattern that, you're basically going to be using a microscope to check that pattern out.
Right.
But the strength really does improve with each fold as well.
To your eye, what do you think is kind of optimal in strength
Anywhere from 144 to 500, somewhere in there. 3 or 4 folds to 5 folds, 6 folds, somewhere in there. That's going to give you your best pattern. Okay. So he brought his width down pretty close. Now what he's got to concentrate on is getting this whole side, the whole profile down how he's wanting. He wants that spine completely flat. This has to be all profile before we start grinding that cutting edge in, okay? Let's see.
And I will say that's tough. Fortunately, unlike Paul, my gloves took the brunt of the sanding thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when you're holding that to do that profiling, man, be careful, because a little finger slip and that sandpaper will take the edge of your finger off just like that.
And we've done like 5 layers or something like this in a lot of our classes, our master class, and you got like 9, so we're going a little bit bolder. We're putting a couple pieces of 15 and 20 next to each other. And I did this, I think it was 3 folds only, just so I had to, so I could show somebody. Now you got a lot more layers than this, but when you start looking at this, you see the pattern? Okay? You can kind of see that pattern?
Yeah.
Okay, when you got the other side, it wasn't showing that pattern now. There was a solid piece. So what that tells me, I got a decent pattern that I wanted on one side. This side wasn't that much, so I need to grind on this side of it. So to pop that out, because this side's really nice, and I got a nice grain pattern and stuff. The other side, I got one piece that's, it doesn't show that much. So I'm going to grind more on the one side than the other side. And you guys got to look at that. And what's really nice about right now is we got the acid. Every once in a while when you're grinding, take it over, be really careful with that acid. Stick it in the acid, clean it off, wash it off. You can take it right out of the acid, keep dripping in the acid, get it so it ain't dripping, put it in the water, use your hand and wipe it off in the water. You'll be fine.
I bet you're waiting to be invited.
And see what your pattern is. If you got to grind more on one side, grind more on one side.
But you still want the middle, don't you?
What do you mean?
Well, if you grind one side, you're going to have a lopsided.
No, you're grinding flat.
No, you bring it back
Yeah,
in the shade.
Okay. Oh, so the nade gets a little
Yeah.
bit. Okay.
So you pop the pattern out a little bit.
You take your half out of the other part of the middle.
Yeah.
You slide it over one way or the other.
How many layers is this?
It's like 3 folds only.
40 layers.
40 layers. No,
Because you started with 5.
5, yeah.
So, you guys are going to get profile done, you're going to get your cutting edge cut in, you're going to get your
You can
tank
see
all
it's
doctored
pretty coarse
up.
on one side.
At that point, you still have a lot of deep grinder marks.
pretty-
Okay, so we want to buff this thing up before we do any of the heat treating or any of those final steps, alright? And that's, you guys are going to spend a significant amount of time
With the hand.
with the hand and sandpaper. gonna do when I get all this squared up and I'm ready to take all those grinding marks out, I'll start out with about 100 grit. And I'll move my way all the way up to 1,000, or sometimes I have like 1,200 grit, or I can go up a step further and go up to 3,000. Now there's multiple steps between that. I go from 100 to 150 to 220 to 300 to 400 to 600 to 1,000. Okay, I'm going to switch my grits as consistently as possible. With every time I switch my grit, I'm switching direction in which I am polishing.
You only go to 1200.
Yep.
So
So I'll give
direction,
you a mirror shine.
so you're going this way and then you're going up and down the blade next time.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. The first time, especially I want to take a look at the grinder marks that I left in there last. Which direction are those going? I want to start that first 100 grit opposite of those grinder marks.
Because it brings it down quicker, right?
Smoother than hell.
It brings it down quicker, and you guys got to think that even though if you have, let's say all of our grinding marks are running straight down the blade, if I take my 100 grit and I go that same way, I might be polishing some of it, but then there's still some valleys I'm still
Deepening them, yeah,
out of those
okay.
valleys a little bit. The first time you guys go through that 100 grit, that's going to take the most time, okay? And spend the time with that first grit to get all those grinder marks out right away. Otherwise, you're sitting there fighting it every single
Do you use a
grit.
sanding block at all, or do you recommend just your hand?
Either or, whatever you're more comfortable with.
I suppose-
I've gotten a habit of just using my hand, but
I guess that's another reason to switch directions, because then you know when you got all the previous
Yep.
things out.
And watch yourself when you're doing this, because there is a cutting edge, okay?
Yeah.
I do not know, I had 2 gloves, I do not cut, those cut gloves, I do not know if I have them, okay?
It's kind of a blood ritual.
They
Mine.
sell those
Sacrifice
gloves
blood.
in the store here, in the office.
In the steel mesh ones?
Yeah,
little
they
blood
sell
and it makes
those
it
gloves
better.
in the office, and they're $7 or whatever they are. I don't know what they are. But they have them in there.
So when you guys run through that first cycle, don't say, leave it there in that same light and say, yeah, it looks good, I'm going to move on. Take it out into different light and turn it every which way and get your eyeball on there every which single way you can possibly think of, every kind of light you can put onto it. And then you're going to see all these marks kind of appear that you didn't see before. Okay, go back and hit them again.